It happened this past week. I was so excited. Well, not really. I'm being facetious. It's two cats. I don't know if you ever followed them online. They had like 1 million followers. Cole and Marmalade were their names. And they were on Ellen. They were on the cover of Modern Cat magazine. Like, who knew there was such a magazine? Anyway, the fur babies, parents, and the business partners, they were making $2,500 a day off of these cats. They had 1 million followers, as I mentioned, but they got this big business dispute and a lawsuit that barred anyone from posting any more of these cute cat photos. It was a catastrophe. Anyway, the case is settled and Cole and Marmalade are back online. Yes, life is good once again, even here in 2020. I was thinking maybe I should get two cats that generate $2,500 a day and then somehow get them on social media. But then I remembered, I'm not really a big cat fan. And you see, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, just an example of all the fun that we have here week after week as we talk about living the best digital life ever. We talk about all the gadgets and gizmos and making money and saving money and what's going on with your online security and privacy, or what's left of it. And you can find us on 400 top stations from coast to coast and around the globe on American Forces Network Radio. And it's called the Kim Komando Show because, after all, I'm America's beloved digital goddess, Kim Komando, here with you once again. Right. And I'm sure you have at least a few questions about something digital I can lend a hand to. And our T-Mobile Unlimited listener line is now open at 1-888-825-5254. Once again, our T-Mobile Unlimited listener line is 1-888-825-5254. I'm sure you have at least a few questions. And just a quick reminder is that you can always schedule a time to be a caller on the show. Really easy to do. Just head over to our official homepage, of course. That's Komando.com. And on the right-hand side, there's a link that says Be a Caller. Fill out that form, and we'll get right back with you. All right. I'd like to get started with 5 things that you need to know. And as I mentioned to you many times before, I just scour the tech news all day long. And for our website, our news alerts, our social media feeds, our daily tech update that you hear on this station, or maybe tap into it as a podcast, and for you here on our 3-hour weekend radio show. And this week, the big news from Apple and Google regarding their exposure notification system. You have to listen to this. Well, let me back up just for a second. iOS 13.5 added exposure notification back in May, but you couldn't even enable it unless you had a special contact tracing app installed, which at the time, there weren't any. Well, now there are a few. It doesn't matter with the new iOS 13.7, because here comes, are you ready? Exposure Notifications Express. Yes. Well, what that does is it cuts out the app middleman, allowing all of our public health officials know where you live, and then they're going to alert your phone about any possible exposure to someone who has had COVID. Now, big news flash, these contact tracing efforts haven't exactly worked well in other places around the world. Now, Exposure Notification Express is something that you have to opt into and doesn't show up on your iPhone turned on by default. Now, over at Komando.com, we have all the tips to make sure that it's not enabled, either accidentally or otherwise. And for you Android users, Exposure Notification Express is coming later this month. Now, remember, Apple and Google say the system works using random Bluetooth identifiers that do not ID you, and that the data is not stored. And of course, they would never lie, would they? I mean, after all, your Roomba has been gathering dirt on you for how many years now? All right, number 2, here comes the Russians. Well, maybe they never really left. They're at it again. A group of Russian trolls, they've been caught trying to meddle with the U.S. election on social media. You might remember the original Russian troll farm called the Internet Research Agency, which became pretty well known during, at least after the 2016 presidential election. This time, the Russian group was pushing a quote-unquote global news site called Peace Data, with reports skewed to divide the Democrats in particular. But what's worse this time is that the group was able to actually hire freelance journalists, including Americans, to write their stories. But the activity was enough to raise some suspicion because nothing says legit like a site called Peace Data, right? Anyway, acting on a tip from the FBI, this week Facebook and Twitter started cracking down. And Facebook says 12 deceptive campaigns associated with the group were just stopped. Now, for Twitter, 5 accounts were removed. I know, doesn't sound like a lot, but they were just getting started. And these definitely won't be the last. And so my advice to you is, as the election season heats up, well, just avoid feeding all the trolls. Number 3, Walmart is totally taking on Amazon Prime. It's called Walmart Plus. It's a new subscription service with perks like unlimited next-day delivery of 160,000 items from anything you can imagine: tech, toys, household items, groceries, things from the pharmacy. And they also have Scan and Go. Using the Walmart app, customers will be able to scan items as you shop and check out without having to actually go through a checkout aisle. Subscribers can also fill up and save up to 5 cents a gallon at nearby 2,000 locations. This is really huge. And the reason why is that it takes advantage of, obviously, Walmart's brick and mortar presence when it comes to selection, prices, and things. And also, don't forget, they have the Walmart neighborhood market locations, which are going to double up as delivery distribution centers. And aside from the pandemic timing when delivery's king, here's a total shot against Amazon's bow. Walmart Plus is going to cost $98 a year. That's right. You're so smart. That's $20 less than Amazon Prime. It launches in just a few weeks, September 15th. We've got a lot of details on how it compares to Prime over at Komando.com. And then, you can decide if it's worth making the switch. But I will tell you this, Walmart Plus is not going to Iraq. Why? Because there are already targets on every corner. Oh, okay. Okay, sometimes I just crack myself up. That one was actually pretty good. All right, number 4. Amazon's business is up in the air. Think about back to the simpler times of 2013. The iPhone 5S was released. What was the most popular game on Facebook? Do you remember 2013? It was Candy Crush. You know that, okay? Twerk and selfie were officially added to the dictionary. And then there was this 60-minute segment where Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos revealed Amazon Prime Air, just promising a fleet of drones that could deliver packages up to 5 pounds in 30 minutes or less. And he would predict that in this interview that it would take like 5 years for everything to get going. Okay, it didn't really work out that way. But this past week, Amazon finally received FAA approval to operate its fleet. Still not the final step, but testing's planned, which means deliveries to small groups of customers in some very specific areas. And Amazon does have catching up to do since it's the third U.S. company that got FAA approval, okay? Who are the other ones? Come on, you know this. We've talked about it here on the show. One was Wing, owned by Google parent company Alphabet. But the first to receive full FAA certification, this is something that you can use to sound really smart on your Zoom calls. The first company to get full FAA certification to deliver packages via drones, what was that company? You knew it. UPS. Yes, you got it. I could drone on, but we've got all the details that you need over at Komando.com. But one thing's for sure, one day soon, Amazon packages will literally be flying off the shelves. And finally, number 5, were you the one in Los Angeles on a jetpack? Because I really would like to talk to you. Well, so does the FBI. The afternoon of Sunday, August 30th. That's the day quite a few airline pilots spotted an unidentified flying person in the skies over Los Angeles. Around 6:30 p.m. or so, an American Airlines flight was coming in for a landing at LAX when one of the pilots spotted a guy in a jetpack at an altitude of about 3,000 feet. Okay, this is dangerous on so many levels. Reported to the tower, of course, at LAX. Now, if you're thinking maybe it was a long day, the guy was flying around, maybe he just actually saw a really big pigeon. No. Right after that, a SkyWest pilot radioed in with a similar sighting, and then the same by a JetBlue pilot. There are no sightings after that, but it raises the question. Yes, there are flying vehicles that look nothing like traditional planes, and yes, there are things like a small jetpack. They're pretty rare. They're really done primarily for stunts, but you have to remember the airspace is restricted around an airport for a very good reason. So the FBI and the FAA are trying to figure out what really happened. If nothing else, it sounds like the premise for a Netflix next great original series, although they may have trouble filming the pilot. All right, coming up in this week's Digital Life Hack. Oh, super excited about this. It's kind of geeky, but it's something that you use every single day that you're on the internet, and something that you use a lot every single day on your internet. Do you have any idea what it is? Yes, it's your browser. We've got all kinds of insider tips, tricks, and secrets to speed it up. And when we come right back, we're going to start all of your great phone calls here on this coast-to-coast broadcast of the Kim Komando Show. Hey, listen, our T-Mobile Unlimited listener line is open. I'd love to hear from you. It's 1-888-825-5254. Once again, is the way to join us. And I'm sure you have at least a few questions about something digital I can lend a hand to. And we're always here for you, by the way. And if you are a Komando community member, we do our very best to always answer all your questions on the community Q&A forum, too. So if you ever have a question that's too techie for the show, or maybe it involves a whole bunch of steps, or maybe you just don't want to be on the radio, you can always use our Komando community for free for 30 days, and you can sign up over at getkim.com. All right, how about we start the show with Laura in Salem, Oregon. Hi there, Laura.
Hi, Kim.
Welcome. What's going on?
Well, I am considering getting a new phone, and I've been looking at rugged phones because I'm a klutz. I'm not their demographic of working in construction or something like that. I'm just a klutz and drop my phone a lot.
Okay, so how many phones have you blown through?
Not too many, but 3.
Okay, that's a lot. I mean, just because did they break because you dropped them? And what kind of phones were they?
Yes. Well, the LGs. I love the LG. It's like I'm simpatico with that, how they work.
Okay.
They seem very fragile.
Well, all phones can be fragile. And so your thought is now to get like a really durable phone?
Get like a Laura-proof phone, yeah. Well, my second LG, that after I broke the second one, and I asked the guy where I bought the third one, I said, what kind of case should I get? And he had his iPhone in this little thin case that he said was really shock resistant.
Okay.
He took it out and threw it on the floor, and it didn't break. So I thought, well, that's got to be good, right?
No.
Not for me.
Not good for Laura. So let me ask you a question. So you were a ballet dancer in a former life. Is that it?
No, ma'am.
The woman of style and ultimate grace is Laura. She tutus across the stage. Okay. All right. So you got a couple of options out there. You can buy a durable phone, or you can buy a really durable Laura-proof case. Now I say that, and I hope that it is true. But the standard de facto of cases is an OtterBox, right? Did you ever look at those?
I looked at those, and actually my current phone has one on there, but I do not like my current phone.
And what kind of phone do you have now?
It's a Samsung.
Oh, right. Okay.
It has a mind of its own.
Okay. So you're just having like a really hard time with having a good relationship with a smartphone. That's what I'm feeling from you.
Yeah.
I mean, All right. So, have you looked at something like the Caterpillar or the Blackview? Have you looked at anything like that?
I have looked online, and the Blackview BV9800 Pro caught my eye, partly because it has fun toys attached to it.
Well, it
aren't necessary, but
no, it isn't. I mean, when you look at that phone, and we're not saying BlackBerry, everybody. This is a Blackview, okay? And a competitor to that is a phone that's made by Caterpillar. Yes, I'm sure you're familiar with Caterpillar. They make those big, diggers and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not a construction person. But these phones have, as you said, bells and whistles built in, like thermal imaging cameras. Primarily to be used on job sites to find where heat's dissipating. But you can use it to find out if somebody's walking in the dark. You can find it to take, pictures of red blotches of heat in the dark, whatever you want to do. But they are made to be on construction sites. But I will forewarn you is that I want you to actually hold the phones. Okay, Laura? I want you to actually see how it feels in your hand, because these are not little dainty phones. Okay, this isn't where you're just going to hold your iPhone up and go, oh, hello, it's Laura, or with your LG phone. These are rugged phones. It's like, Laura's here. Okay, and will it withstand drops? Yes, it will. Will it withstand being underwater for, say, 30 minutes or 60 minutes? I think the Blackview's 30 minutes. I think the Caterpillar's 60 minutes. And then it's 5 feet down underneath the water as well. So yes, that may be the phone for you. But again, I just want to encourage you to actually go out and hold it before you actually buy it, or make sure that there's a way that you can take it back, because it may not be for everybody's hands. And thank you so much for your call. All right, if you're on Facebook, It used to be that if you just want to download all your photos, you could, but they're trying to avoid any type of antitrust situations right now. So if you are on Facebook, there are new ways for you to download all of your photos. And actually, you can download them directly into Dropbox. If you're wondering for the steps exactly how to do that, we've got it free for the taking over at Komando.com. You want to stay right where you are. I have a really interesting caller coming up. You may know his name. We're going to be talking about contact tracing. And of course, we have more of your phone calls. You're on the Kim Komando Show. All right, moments away from our digital life hack. And then later on this hour, I've got a huge warning about some new malware that's spreading through Word docs. And I have to tell you, I read so many articles. And there was one in particular that got my attention a few weeks ago. It was called, "We Can't Cure COVID-19 by Giving Up Our Right to Privacy." Fascinating. As a matter of fact, yesterday I got an email. I think a woman's name was Joyce, and she's like, "You're talking about contact tracing and express notifications, and you're not telling us how to opt out. So you must be..." Wow, everything is so politically charged. So we wrote her back and said, "Listen, calm down. Here are the instructions. We've had them on the site for a while, okay?" Well, this op-ed was written by John Ackerley. Now, prior to finding a tech firm called Virtru in 2012, John was responsible for technology policy at the White House National Economic Council and was the director of policy and strategic planning at the U.S. Department of Commerce. So John definitely has street creds when we're talking about rights to privacy and COVID-19. And John's joining us for just a few moments here on the Kim Komando special caller line. John, thanks so much. Let me ask you just here at the top, how are the contact tracing app programs really working in other countries?
Kim, so then great to be here, and thank you for that question. It is a very widespread set of use cases where you have South Korea that takes a very centralized approach. It can be fairly effective, but, really combining a bunch of data streams where, there have been massive concerns about privacy with regards to people within an apartment building knowing exactly what their neighbors' so then health status is, to, much more decentralized models, which have better privacy, but a lot less effective. And so I think what you're seeing here is sort of a panoply of different approaches. Unfortunately, to date, in the U.S., very slow adoption, very fragmented, and really it comes down to trust. And so then, as you talk about often, we are in a massive trust deficit here in the U.S., and I think the lack of control over data, really over the past 20 years, has been at the center of that. So we are unfortunately way behind about being able to use technology to really effectively combat COVID-19.
When we have all these big tech companies that are collecting so much data about us, right? Facebook and Google and Apple and Microsoft and Amazon. People don't really think about everything that Amazon might really know about them. And it's almost as if, and I don't know, if I always go back to what my dad would say, like when we were growing up, my dad would always say, what happens in the house stays in the house. Okay, well, that part, okay, that ain't happening anymore. And so, So do you think, John, do you think we'll ever get to a point where we could actually have an effective contact tracing app because Americans will trust government collecting this data, or is it just totally a lost cause?
Given the current trust me approach, it is a lost cause, but I do think there is reason for hope. I think some of the challenges is, these large tech companies, the fact of the matter is they are in a death match for data. It's the reason why, from a cloud perspective, everyone wants access to, these large stores of data, and they're often giving away services to get access to it, both from an enterprise perspective and a consumer perspective. So the natural inclination of the public, when even very well-meaning efforts like leveraging decentralized Bluetooth capabilities to help combat COVID-19, people don't want to opt in. And if you don't have people opting in,
it doesn't really work.
and there is not assurance, that somehow the game is not going to be changed later by players where the fundamental incentives is to get access to data, you're going to have a problem. Both on the big tech side, that is de facto, in a way, setting policy because the federal government has not led on this topic. I think the reason for hope, frankly, is there are ways, and Virtru is, one of those companies that provides verifiable trust, i.e., you can share your data, you have easy audit, easy revocation of that data so that you can actually opt into these systems with the confidence that you are always in actual control.
Can you revoke? So let me ask you, John. So can you revoke those privileges at any given moment? So if it's like, all right, you know what? I have a Kinza thermometer. Now all of a sudden I'm part of a fever heat map throughout the country. I mean, can I?
Absolutely, you can.
Okay.
Yep. So that you can do it on a real-time, basis. This, core technology really is very simple. It's protect your data. Basically, don't just think about protecting the castle walls, like wrap the data itself, tag the data, and integrate into systems so that it's like super simple. Because at the end of the day, consumers, you, me included, don't want to take extra steps. So it's got to be baked into these systems. And the good news is that there's some, real progress along this front. And, if you think about it, it is not just contact tracing, it's sharing data in this new world of distributed teams, remote workers. You want to
tons of everything. Yeah, there's so much data that's and so many different data points.
A parent wanted so then a parent wanted to then talk to a teacher, a patient wanting to actually communicate sensitive data, not just over a Zoom, but actually sharing very sensitive information. You want that data in your control, and you do not want to have to set up a fax machine in your home.
No, we don't
work anyway. So.
Please don't make me go back. Please don't make me go back to a fax machine.
In our very, very earliest days, that's when my brother worked at the NSA. He was my beyond blowing up all of my GI Joes with fireworks, and I can't believe we're in business together at this point. But amazing technology. The first use case was to replace the fax machine with an end-to-end encryption for that email, right? We've gone a long way since then. But, just taking away friction to be able to share your data with that revoke button is a game changer.
Well,
and it's a game changer here too.
And I appreciate you coming on and talking to us for just a few moments because, John, it's a fascinating topic. And it's a controversial topic, and so many people are so guarded about their privacy. It would be nice if we could get on. I'd like to be able to see at some point every data point that Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, whoever it is, even the little companies, even the little app companies, the developers, every piece of data that they may have on me where I can say, you know what? Yeah, that's okay. Nope, that's not good. It reminds me of when we had Jared Lanier on the show. This is probably about a year ago, where, he's trying to have a movement that a family of four, they should be charging big tech for their data. Okay? We shouldn't just be giving it away. And if you had a family of four, mom, dad, 2 kids, that you'd be able to make $30,000 a year off of that data. But right now we're just giving it away. So hopefully, with companies like John and Virtru, that we'll be getting to a point where someday we can go on and we can feel confident that the data and the privacy that we're giving up is really worthwhile as far as the end game comes. Again, John, thanks for being with us. All right, our digital life hack this week is fabulous. And we're going to tell you how you can speed up Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and Edge, right? You're like, okay, got me. Number 1, we're going to give you all the steps to clear out those cookies and everything that you have in the cache file. Number 2, we're going to have you check your extensions, and I want you to cut out the ones that you're not really using. Like, for example, there was an extension that checks your spelling. Well, it does. It scans the entire pages for errors. It could slow you down. You don't need that. Take it off. If it's still slow, we're going to walk you step by step, uninstalling and reinstalling your browser on Mac and also on Windows. Now, what about your tabs? Well, tabs can also slow you down too. We'll tell you about some extensions that are actually good. One's called Too Many Tabs on Chrome, Firefox. One's called One Tab. And then we're going to help you ditch your browser for another option. But just keep in mind that in Windows, Edge was made to work with Windows. Safari was made to work with Mac. And if you're using another browser and you're not getting the performance that you would expect, it could be that because you may are using another browser, or maybe your operating system needs some updates. But this is a good place for you to start. And it's a long Labor Day weekend. I know you have some extra time on your hands, so spend some time on the one program that you use the most every single day on your computer, and that's your browser. We've got all the links that you need and all the steps free for the taking over at Komando.com. Head over to Komando.com, and once you're there, hit the link that says Kim Show. Hey, still to come, Word docs are now being used in a unique way to spread malware. I'm going to tell you what to be on the lookout for here on the Kim Komando Show. Hey, if you're listening, the show gets interrupted for whatever reason, I just want to remind you, you get the whole show as a podcast or as a webcast over at getkim.com, 30-day free trial. Phil in Tallahassee, Florida. Hello there, Phil.
Hey, Kim. I have an unusual question for this day and age. I have about 30 years' worth of correspondence with my father that I'm scanning for the family. These are like 6 big boxes. I was wondering whether there was a correspondence software or file management software that would be of help. I would like to be able to scroll through the files, looking at the various annotations I made covering topics, people, dates, places. I would also like to be able to search for this criteria.
Okay. Well, there's all kinds of things, but this is correspondence. So I assume that you're going to have to go in there and give a note, or you're going to have to look at it to know exactly what it is.
Exactly.
And so and then are you scanning them as pictures or using OCR so the text is readable, or how are you doing this?
Yeah, right now I'm scanning them as PDF, readable PDF.
All right. Okay. Well, that's good. What you want to do is make sure that you put them, you have to come up with your own naming scheme. And so, like, for example, what a lot of folks do when they're putting together these type of documents for family trees is that they'll come up with some way for them to always remember how to do it. So you want to give it the name, title, place, for example. So it'd be John and Bob's wedding, wedding, 1971, New York City, or whatever it is. And so it's really up to you to come up with that naming mechanism. Unfortunately, there's nothing really that will scan it, look at it, and then give you the exact content of what it may be, and then fill that in automatically. But by putting enough in the title name, or file name rather, that you can identify it, that should be at least a start. And then at that point, you can actually get into some of the metadata. And that's like when you right-click on a file name, is that you can put some more documentation, you can put some more words, you can put some more things associated with that particular file. Now, what's really might be kind of handy too is that if you are using some type of OCR, is that you could actually pick out maybe some words, and the optical character recognition could be able to do that. You could also use a service like, if you have all these pages, you're going to need a place to store it. You definitely don't want to store it online. You want to use something like Google Photos. But the naming culture of the exact file name, it's really going to be up to you. There's nothing to really go in there. If you're looking for better photo organizers, that's where something like Adobe Lightroom can really come in handy, because it allows you to really get into the properties of a particular file and then start putting different code words, and then you can sort it much like a database and using keyword data searches, so that this way you could find, say, everything that your father wrote about your mother, everything that your father wrote about his sister or parents or whatever it may be. So you might want to give a trial and take a look at Adobe Lightroom for something that's a little bit more substantial when you're organizing all your files. And thank you so much for your call. Coming right back, speaking of docs, Word docs are spreading malware. I'll tell you more about that here on the Kim Komando Show. All right, a couple of things I want to pass along to you, first of which is Netflix. If you're looking for something free to watch, you can try Netflix. This is not a free trial. They actually are giving away some free movies. Bird Box, Murder Mystery, The Two Popes. You can also watch original series like Stranger Things, Grace and Frankie, and you're like, wait, Why is Netflix free? Well, here's the deal. You can only watch through a web browser, either on your computer or Android. Sorry, you can't watch it on an iPhone. And that also means you won't be able to access the content like on Roku or Amazon Fire TV. So we have the entire list on how you can watch at Komando.com, which brings me to the point is that you can watch movies on the list in their entirety. But for shows, you only get to watch the first episode. And that's how they get you. Hook, line, and streamer. And as promised, malware, I got to tell you a big warning. Emotit has switched to a new malicious file template called Red Dawn, and that's named because of its red graphics design. It looks like an ordinary Word document with an alert that you have to enable in order to look at it. What it does? Installs some malware, and that means it could give hackers complete and total access to your computer. So over at Komando.com, we have the screenshots to show you exactly what to look for and what to do if, in fact, you made the mistake and you got hit and then you got some malware in your system. Now you got trouble. Stay right where you are. We have another hour coming up that you never want to miss here on the West Star Multimedia Network.